Well, good afternoon. We want to welcome each and every one of you all here with us for this event, this gathering of great importance for us. It's always, my name is Samaj, Pastor Samaj, pastor here at Second Baptist Church, Asbury Park, and I'm just here to welcome you all. I am so glad to see. It's always good when the community comes together and to realize that everybody is part of the community, whether you are clergy, politicians, law enforcement. We're all part of a community, and that is what's important. And all of us ought to always continue to fight that there be unity in our community. All right. I do want to welcome just a couple people here. We have the mayor of we have the best mayor and the best city. It is the best combination. The one and only Mayor John Moore is here. Then also we have two council people here. We have Councilwoman Yvonne Clayton and Councilwoman Amy Quinn, who are also here with us. Welcome. We also have our clergy that are here with us. Pastor Akins is here from Triumphant Life. We have Pastor Julie and Pastor Sean from Ballard United Methodist Church. We have Pastor Isaac Fidel, Shore Christian Church. And I think I got all the clergy, right? And then, of course, we know Nicole Harris is pastoring Price Memorial, AME Zion, all those in Atlantic City. She's still valid. And then we still claim her. And then, of course, even Ryan Clements is back there he's pastor quasi, but he's with the United Methodist Church also. Well, we welcome all of the clergy and all of our community leaders who are here present with us, and law enforcement. We're just glad that you're here. Your presence means a lot, and we just hope and pray that this event is only the beginning to many more, and that the sign of unity that is displayed with us gathered in this room only becomes larger and larger until all of Asbury Park is involved, and that there's oneness between all of us, and that we are all just striving for the best in each other and of each other. And I believe that things will be better. And I don't think that this is some far distant thing, but I think it is imminent, and it's soon. And so we're glad that each of you all are here. All right, so I want to call up the Reverend Nicole D. Harris, who will give us the purpose for the press conference, after which Brother Dwayne King Small will come up and speak, who is the Asbury Park community organizer, and following him will be our best mayor of the best city, Mayor John Moore. Please come in that order.
First, thank you again for being here this evening to have this important discussion. This press conference came about because there were a number of us from the community who had either heard about or experienced some type of encounter with our local police department that ended negative or resulted in a negative outcome. Whether it was someone being arrested or if it was just words that were exchanged that could have been handled better, we as a community felt like this was something that needed to be addressed. So this is, I do want to let you know, this is a press conference that was not called by any agency or police department or anything like that. This was called by the community. But we are thankful to have our local police department and prosecutor's office working with us to resolve these matters. So the purpose today is to have open dialogue between the community and police that will address aggressive behavior and practices, to present a strategy for continued discussion and plans for better policing and better communities that will result in sustainable positive outcomes. So that's the reason we're here today. This is not going to end today. We're not looking to have a result today, but this is to begin this discussion that we hope will continue.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dwayne Small. They also call me King. And first, I want to thank. First, I want to thank the church and Reverend Nicole Harris and them for allowing us to have this meeting in this church. And thank you, Danny. You've been very instrumental in helping me out as a young brother. We have a problem in the city of Asbury Park with the police in the black community. In the black community in the city of Asbury Park, at any given moment, you can walk down the street and see police stop young black men, stop them, search them, run their names, they don't got nothing, and they off. It is my understanding that when you are stopped by police in the state of New Jersey, they cannot demand your ID unless they're about to give you a summons or place you under arrest. And also, if you are stopped by the police, there should be a record of this stop. But this is not happening on the west side of town in the city of Asbury Park, New Jersey. I've had meetings with the mayor, the former chief of police, and also the current chief of police about these practices. We've seen a video of a sergeant yelling and screaming at some juveniles. We all understand that if a juvenile is being unruly and you're an adult, one of the things you don't do is stoop to their level. And especially when you take the oath to protect and serve those juveniles. And if you do know those juveniles and you say that this is always happening when you see them, why is something like this continuing between the police and the black community? What's going on? We had a former city manager, may he rest in peace. He was viciously assaulted by police. That police is no longer on this police force, but when it happened, everybody looked at it like the city manager was in the wrong. Oh, he assaulted his wife, he did this. But no one said that this police, prior to this, had a number of complaints against him. So now, we know that we got a problem. So what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it as a community? We can either go up together or we can go down together. When we look at the history of this country, we know why riots start. Why? Because of aggressive policing in poor and poverty-stricken communities. We just read about the poverty rate. Once again, the question is, what are we going to do about this as a city? Are we going to continue down this path? I've been to a number of city council meetings because of this. I remember in 2014 when a young brother and a young sister was assaulted over there at Mr. Pizza. You had police departments from Avon, all of the surrounding areas come in. And it was all a result of because this young man was in back of the building taking a piss. Police caught him, gave him a ticket. He threw the ticket on the ground. Then the police gave him another ticket. He threw it on the ground. Now he gets attacked. All because of this aggressive policing. We understand that the city being built up and we build $1 million homes and all that. But why are we attacking those that are in need? It's not happening to the wealthy people. I'll be on Cookman Avenue all the time. As a matter of fact, I was working on Cookman Avenue and I'm standing outside the front of the door. I say, yo, man, you smell that? He said, yo, that smells good. The guy walking past on Cookman Avenue, broad daylight, smoking weed. Broad daylight. I spoke to another young man yesterday, and he stopped. He stopped me. I said, why you stop me? He said, 'cause they just rode by. I said, who? He said, the street crimes unit. He said, every time they see him, they stop him and they search him and run his name. I said, do they give you any ticket, anything? He said, no, but this is what's happening. And I've done brought this to the mayor's attention, Councilwoman Clayton's attention, Councilwoman Quinn knows about it also. Our street crimes unit need body cameras because what they're doing out here, and if our law enforcement are real about it, they would tell you so, They doing something called fishing. If they think you got something, they gonna stop you, search you, pat you down, you ain't got nothing, they gonna let you go. They know it. Now, let's be clear about something. All of our police are not bad. But the problem is that the good police don't say nothing when the bad police do something. That's the problem. If there's accountability, and I'm starting to see it because I spoke to, Officer Barnes, and I said, yo, this is the first time I've seen somebody being placed on death duty for something they did to a civilian. He said things is changing. So if things are changing here, us as a community, let's help them change. Let's come together, let's unite for that one common cause so that we can have a better community for everybody. So when you come to Asbury Park and you see your law enforcement officers, you're proud to see them. You speak to them, you get to know them. This makes us a better community. Or we know the other side to it. We know the flip side to it. We sitting in this room right now, we got this opportunity, y'all. Let's take advantage of it. And once again, thank y'all for coming out, and thank you for letting me speak.
Good evening, everybody, and again, thank everybody for coming out tonight. I thank the church for hosting this as you graciously do so many times a year. Nicole, thank you. Thank you. Everybody on the dais, thank you. Why am I here tonight? I'm here tonight to hear the complaints, the stories, and to work together to solve these. I will not promise to you that I can solve everything. I will not promise to you that I can find the money in the budget to solve everything, but I can promise you that I've always listened, always will continue to listen. As far as like the police itself, I'm not going to get into every little aspect. I'm going to list a couple things of what we have done recently to hopefully make things better. We've increased the foot patrols. We've started the Coffee with a Cop again. This past weekend, Councilwoman Chapman and Deputy Mayor Quinn went to churches, bodegas, and barbershops handing out applications for Special Officers 1s and Special Officers 2. There's openings. We're looking to hire from within the community. People need jobs, and these are jobs that can move up and help solve this problem. I think the most important thing I'm going to say this evening is something that a few people know about. We've talked to Reverend Caldwell, I've talked to Danny about it, I've mentioned it to Nicole, I've mentioned it to Dwayne. But tonight I'm going to tell everybody, the council as a whole, since back in November, we've been looking into forming some type of, don't take this for gospel what it's going to be called, but a Citizens Advisory Board. We know it's needed in Asbury Park. So we've looked at Atlantic City just adopted one, we've looked at Lambertville's, we've looked at the Metuchen one. Amy and Yvonne are the two council people doing this work. We're hoping we can roll this out in November. They've been to Red Bank and see how theirs operates. I'm going to say, wasn't impressed with it. We're looking to do it right the first time, where everybody gets a voice, and so I think that's a big step in finding solutions. I know it's something that people have asked for many years, be it a police review board or whatever. So there's going to be something coming out in March that will start to answer those questions. So, and again, a lot of people, and I told TV 12, a lot of people think mayor and council know everything that's going on. With a couple of the incidents that did happen, we have not seen the tapes. We have no right to see the tapes while there's an active investigation. In our form of government, we set policy. We do not run day-to-day operations. That's done by the city manager and the department heads, in this case, be it the police chief. And we support both at this time, and they support us, and they know where we're going, and they know we need, again, a Citizens Advisory Board to look into the complaints. And I say, and I've talked to Dwayne. Dwayne calls me every time he sees something wrong, which I love, because it's eyes and ears out there. If anybody sees something wrong, report it. If anybody thinks there's something wrong, report it. Because as Dwayne said, if you're stopped by a police officer, we're being told, mayor and council being told, when you're pulled over and you're stopped, a card is punched to police headquarters. A lot of the city disputes that and says, BS, it's not being happened.
It's not happening. So if you feel like it's not happening and you go down and file an internal affairs investigation immediately, bring it to our attention. We'll stay on top of it the best we can. Again, I thank you all for having me here today and having the rest of the council, and we can work together to make this happen. Thank you.
Nicole, can I just clarify 2 quick things that John said? So, we went to Red Bank's Human Relations Committee. We were very impressed. They do a great job. I'm just not sure that that's what we need in Asbury. I just want to be really clear. They do a great job with what they're doing, just not sure if that's what we want here. And we're still in the researching, going to towns. Yvonne and I are going to Lambertville. So this is not going to roll out in March. This is going to roll out when we put together something, meeting with community leaders. We met with Derek. We just picked a date next week. So this won't roll out in March. So all I ask is that all of you hit us with as much feedback as you can, me and Yvonne, and we're going to try to put together something effective for the city and the community. I know. Red Banks is great. Nobody's saying anything bad about Red Banks.
But it's a failed operation in that it doesn't even ask for volunteers. The mayor and council just appoint whoever they want on it.
Yeah.
Right.
So
yeah. Well,
okay,
we're going to places and checking these things out, and we welcome any town that you think that we should go to, within the vicinity, and check it out. And Red Bank does a great job.
Something with teeth in it.
You're such a good pal.
Well, I do think it's good to hear that
Agreed.
that you're looking for volunteers and not just appointed people, because that means that it gives opportunity for a wider breadth of people and representation from the community. So that's a good thing. So thank you for your work. Thank you for your work. Good. So we thank you to those who have already spoken. Now we're going to hear from Sergeant Michael Casey from the Asbury Park Police Department, followed by Deputy Chief Doug Johnson from the Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office, who will then be followed by Jennifer Lewinsky of Black Lives Matter and Asbury Park Transforming the Justice Project. Again, as I stated in the beginning, it's always good that every aspect from the community be present, right? And I hope that you all notice this is not a one-sided conversation, but this is an every-sided conversation. And so now we get a chance to hear from another side, another aspect of our community, the law enforcement. So please receive them as they come.
Thank you, Pastor. As the pastor said, my name is Sergeant Michael Casey. I'm with the Asbury Park Police Department. I want to thank everybody for having us at this forum. Just wanted to touch on a couple things that Mr. Small brought up. I can't go into much, but other than both of these things that Dwayne brought up are under investigation. I can say that the one thing where the officer spoke to the juveniles and or young adults, it's not a behavior that we condone at the police department. That's pretty much what I'll say about it until it's done under investigation, finished being under investigation. Again, as the mayor said, we're always looking to promote unity within the community. We want, there's a recourse for every action, and like you said, we're looking to promote unity within the community. Sorry to sound cliche like that, but that's really about it. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Just want to send regards from Prosecutor Domicioni, First Assistant Lori Linsky, and Chief John McCabe from the Prosecutor's Office that couldn't be here this evening. I also want to thank Nicole, Pastor Samaj, Mayor, all the dignitary, all the ministers that came out this evening, because I think this is a very, very good cause, and we should have these conversations more often. As stated, I'm Doug Johnson. I'm the Deputy Chief of Detectives the Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office. And just to, I was kind of caught off guard that I was going to be saying something today, so I didn't write up anything. So excuse me, it's going off the top of the head. But I know everyone here probably has some questions later on. But when you're concerned about relations, policing in this city, across this country, how are they going to bridge the gap? Well, we started this new law, new protocol. We have the Early Warning Act. This early warning system says that when we are looking out for officers who have some have habitual absence, who are having more than 1-2 incidents of physical force, you're going to be looked into. And if anyone has more than 3 incidents, it could be for use of force or any other number of things, they have to go through a process of being qualified for fit for duty. Now, the other point I'll touch on real quick is that also at our office we have the Professional Responsibility Unit. The Professional Responsibility Unit is basically internal affairs. So we police the police officers. So now when incidents do occur in a local town and in our office, then I'm the one to investigate our officers. When it's in the local towns, our PRU unit, they're the ones who take all the evidence in totality, review it, and determine if there's any criminality to it. If there's any criminality to it, it stays at the Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office because we're going to move forward to prosecute that officer. If it has no criminality to it, then that incident, that case file, that office is sent back to the local department, and at that time, the local department handles it interdepartmentally. So it deems that it could be anything from a suspension or 1-day, 2-day, or up to termination, but it's up to the individual department. So that's just a couple things I'll touch on real quick. As I said, I wasn't prepared to come up here today, but I'm sure if you have any questions later on, I'll be more than happy to answer. So thank you for having me. Oh, one other thing, I would be remiss if I didn't also, Monmouth County Prosecutor Chris Commissione, he started a community relation, almost community liaison in our office, and that's Pastor Lydell Akins. And that's another way, because he's going around, we want to get the pastors, the clergymen in the area to also start to bridge that gap with the congregations, also so that they can start to have more trust. Because everyone, we being truthful about it, we have to get the trust of the community. And the only way we can successfully prosecute these cases is because we need the community to be witnesses and testify. And if we don't have the trust of the community, that's not going to happen. I just want to acknowledge that Pastor Akins, so far, he's doing a great job putting programs together. I'm sure you guys will have some questions for him later on, but just going around the county, different topics, even just going far as safety in houses of worship. We're going to also touch on that, but that's just some of the things that Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office is trying to do so that we can enhance our relationship with the community. All right. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate having me.
Just one more quick thing to mention, as Deputy Chief Johnson talked about Pastor Akins as the community liaison for Monmouth County. There's also Asbury Park Police Department. One thing that we can be proud of is that there's a police chaplaincy program that is really cutting edge, as I've heard it described, that is really that is setting a pace and a standard for having chaplains within the police department. It's often been said by law enforcement and others, right, that you don't know you need a chaplain until you need a chaplain. But one of the things that we can applaud the Asbury Park Police Department for is that there are 6 of us, six of us, right? Pastor Akins is one. I'm a police chaplain. We also have Dan Carrera. You go ahead and say him.
Dan Carrera and Joseph Shacknall, as well as Bishop Mark White.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's 6 chaplains within the police department that are clergy, and more clergy are welcome. So to become part of that, But the fact that our police department is open to that is another signal that our police department is thinking differently than maybe they have in the past. and has definitely an eye or has a concern for the community. And this is just one aspect of that. So just wanted to be sure that we pointed that out. Now we're going to have Jennifer Lewinsky from Black Lives Matter in Asbury Park Transformative Justice Project, followed by Reverend Nicole Harris with the Better Policing, Better Community Project.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming. When people hear Black Lives Matter, I think that very often they immediately think that we are anti-police, and that's not always the case. We are all autonomous people and we have different belief systems. Black Lives Matter is pro-Black, and the history of policing is anti-Black. And that's where our problem comes in. The discussion that we're having is the anti-Blackness of policing and the way that that happens and why it happens. The fact that we police poverty the way that we do in our communities, that we have ordinances that lock people up for panhandling, that lock people up for sleeping outside, that are policing impoverished areas in different ways than they're policing the West Side different than they're policing the East Side, right? And we all know that this is the truth, and we need to talk about it as if it's the truth and not cover it up. We're not hiding behind a blue line. Black Lives Matter doesn't have a blue line. We talk about things as they are, and we come under a lot of fire for that. It is what it is, and it's going to be what it's going to be. A lot of the programs that are being talked about sound hopeful, and the community doesn't trust the police. The community that I'm working for does not trust the police. And as it stands, we should not. The force report came out a couple of months ago, and if you read the force report, if you scrolled through it at all, it tells you that we have no reason to trust the police as it stands. It is not the duty of the community to change that relationship. It is the duty of the police department to change that relationship. The community has come together to hold the police department accountable to change that behavior, and that's what this is. But it is not our job to change how the police behave. We are coming together to hold them accountable, but it's not our job. It is their job to change their behavior and foster trust in the community. I'm not going to go over anything anybody else has said, because a lot of that was in what I was going to say. But I just want to make it clear that everyone understands that we're not coming together to tell the police what to do. The police know that trust needs to be garnered in order for this relationship to get better, and it's their job, not ours. The force came down from them, and the relationship needs to be changed from them. If you have an abusive parent, it's not the child's job to change that relationship. It's the parent's job to fix that relationship. The police are the parents of the community. That's the job that you expect to have. You expect to be able to call them when you need help. And the community doesn't trust the police to call when you need help. I was personally in an abusive relationship and did not trust the police enough to call when I needed help. I know other people that have been in that situation. It is a real situation, and it's not a situation everywhere, but it is a situation here. And the community is coming together to make this happen, and I hope that these programs are useful, and I hope that they're real, and I hope that they come together. And that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you to everyone who has come and spoke on behalf of many sides of the community. And so before we go into questions, I did want to read this statement, which talks about our plans as a community moving forward. Also, I would like to ask that anyone who had something to do with the planning of this event, if you could just raise your hand so that they can see it's not just Nicole, please. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. On November 29th, 2018, NJ.com published the Force Report, a database of police use of force for every municipality in the state of New Jersey. The database was compiled from 5 years of use of force reports from 2012 to 2016. During that time, Asbury Park, New Jersey had 725 uses of force reported at a rate of 42.4 incidences per 1,000 arrests. This places the Asbury Park Police Department in the top quarter percentile for the use of force rates in New Jersey. 114 officers in the Asbury Park Police Department used force over the 5 years with an average of 6.4 incidences per officer, compared to the statewide average of 4.1. Because New Jersey does not have a statewide process for flagging officers for review, or did not at the time of this report, no officers from Asbury Park's police department had been flagged. However, under systems in place in other settings such as Chicago, Los Angeles, Asbury Park would have been between 24 to 85 officers flagged if there were such a process. A Black resident in Asbury Park is 96% more likely to have force used on them than a white resident. 5.4 of the Hispanic residents have faced reports of use of force. But because there is no standard way for a police officer to identify these kind of, well, no standard way for the review, this number might be a little bit higher or lower. The most common reason for use of force was resisting arrest, at a rate of 4.4, which is a rate 4.4 higher than the state average. Use of force resulted in both the subject and the officer, resulted in injury rates at 7.9% higher than the state average. These reported numbers match the told experiences of Asbury Park residents, both in the recent past and present. Mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, grandparents, and cousins in Asbury Park's brown and Black communities all have a story of a family member or a friend, a story of use of force. I myself have personal stories of use of force. And it's kind of disheartening when hearing these things become normal. And so we came together as a community to have this press release because we're here to say this is not normal and this should not be happening. We want the help of everyone in the community, including our law enforcement officers, to rectify this situation, because Asbury Park should be a safe place for everyone to live. So, with that being said, this is not our last meeting, but our first. And without going too much into it, because like I said, there are other people involved in the planning of this. So I'm just going to say to those who raise their hands, we got work to do, y'all. So, and I say to our prosecutors, those from the prosecutor's office and our police department, we have work to do. And we look forward to working together. So, at this time, I'd like to ask Pastor Van Zant to come forward. We're going to have a question period where you will be able to ask questions, and we have plenty of folks up here that can answer those questions. I would ask that when you ask a question, if you can speak up, just because we have cameras, and so we want your questions to be heard. So use your outside voice. He's gonna do great.
Questions? Yes.
My name is Teresa Jones. Former business owner in Asbury Park and former public health nurse with the city of Asbury Park. 20 plus years ago, I left my job to work on political processes to remove several real bad apples. I have some professional and business stories most of you in here wouldn't even believe. Fortunately, several of those folks have gone, there are a few remnants left. However, in dealing with a number of this, talking about safety in churches, talking about community safety and what the community needs to do, I implore you in your planning, and I will offer my professional assistance if needed, that we don't continue to talk about the patient with a severe disease and going everywhere else around the patient except directly to the patient. The patient being the police officers, from the top ranking to the special, who need awareness, real education, not the little required thing they're required to do, talking about cultural sensitivity. No, I'm talking about the real meat, the real behavior awareness and change that comes from one-on-one discussion in a classroom setting, talking about it, being aware, talking about implicit bias, talking about the inherent racism, both conscious and unconscious. Okay?
Let me ask your question.
Yes. My question is real self-awareness, community sensitivity, and implicit bias being taught to each and every officer and fire personnel in the city of Asbury Park?
So, I know Pastor Akins is doing some of that training, right?
Yes. So we have from the prosecutor's office several things that are manifesting. One, we're actually just offering on March 15th for a selective of 10 individuals to participate in the STARS training to see what the training is that police officers do at the Sheriff's Department. We got together with the Chiefs Association, the Sheriff's Department, and the Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office, offering some leaders. I'd love for you to be a part of that training on March 15th at 10 o'clock to 2, where we're allowing them to go through what training they are doing, the STARS simulator, and to go through bias training and have conversation with our AG, one of our APs. And that's one element, and there are several other ones that we are doing across within our school systems, as well as going into police departments. Wall Police Department did a full training of every single police officer. We did an implicit bias training with them, as well as every officer is required to do clear training, which is in the classroom. And I would love for you to take I have the course itself. It is an extensive training that I went through myself. So they're going through that training. Every police officer was required to do it last year, I believe. Yes, sir? It was last year. There's additional one that's going on now. I think it's mental health. I'm actually watching that one now and going through the training myself. So those trainings are manifesting and going. I think it's tough because the community doesn't get to kind of give a bird's eye view that this is going on. So it's hard to kind of, I think if there was a way to kind of put that out to say this is going on, but it is happening.
I know what's going on, but what's going on is not adequate and not sufficient for what we're talking about.
We would love please offer.
I'm offering you. We will be meeting
Yes.
and discussing it because this is dire.
Yeah. Thank you. Other questions? Oh, did you want me to add?
No.
Good. Yes.
Okay, Mr. Small was talking about
Can you
the
stand,
officers
please? Oh, thank you.
that represent the community, and I know you guys are now hiring. Are there any special provisions in place to make sure that we're hiring people that represent the community, especially minorities that are from the community?
We have a residency requirement. It's a civil service, so we do hire residents first, okay? As far as, we also pull off of a bilingual list. So there are qualifications there that you have to meet, but I think your question as far as
Well, my only reservation with the residency requirement is what is the amount of time that they had to live in the city prior to applying? Because we know about the shortcuts that people take to make sure that they qualify
Correct.
for those residency requirements.
There are. It's, the person would have to be an actual resident of Asbury Park prior to filing for the application. for the
A year, a
test.
month, a day?
Sometimes it's 2 years. So, sometimes it's as short as a year, yes, that is correct.
Good. Yes, Karen.
I'm gonna follow up on that question. I noticed when I was at the beach this summer, there was a young kid that got lost. And there was a bunch of officers that came to assist this child who was a person of color, a child of color. But all of the people that were hired that are like young people are not of color. So can you tell me, like, is there any kind of recruitment? Was that position, I'm sorry, I'm gonna sound silly, but we used to call them rent cops in Delmar. Is that position attached to the police in Asbury Park, or is that attached to the beach?
It's attached to the police department. So down on the beachfront during the summertime, we have a high volume of special police officers, class 1, class 2. Class 1.
Is that what this position is? That Amy and Eileen are looking for?
Yes, yes, it
Okay,
is.
all right.
And there's always an active civil service list for regular police officers as well. We currently have 2 individuals in the police academy as we speak. Right. As far as a race requirement, is that what you were asking me?
No, I'm not saying is there a race requirement. I just said that when I noticed that it was, I mean, if you're a little boy, which was a 4-year-old boy, and you just it would be nice to have somebody who looks like you coming to the child was lost. So it was just a little different situation. But in our town, when I was many years ago, there was a program called Police Explorer program.
Right.
Do you have that here?
We have a cadet program, yes,
Oh,
we
okay.
do.
All right, okay. Just curious.
Yes.
Hi. I wanted to know what the NJPTC is as a requirement for the posting for the special law enforcement.
NJPTC is stands for New Jersey Police Training Commission. Okay, so the flyer that went out recently, it says that we're looking for Class 1 police officers. Class 1, there is no requirement other than high school diploma or a GED, driver's license, and there must be a citizen of the United States. PTC requirement, so Class 1 is an entry-level police position. They receive minimal training. They do not carry, they do have a weapon. It's called an ASP. Just to clear that up, in the old days, police officers used to carry nightsticks. They did away with nightsticks. It's called an expandable baton now, and ASP is the company that makes this expandable baton. But anyway, that's what Class 1s carry. They don't have a firearm. They receive maybe, depending on what academy they go to, as little as 8 days up to a few weeks of training. We primarily use our Class 1s for parking enforcement, municipal ordinances enforcement, and we use them down on the boardwalk to assist as helping out with the influx of beachgoers or in the community itself. So Class 2 receives just about the same training that a fully sworn police officer does, with the exception of a few. They fall short a few credits, if you will, of a fully trained police officer. Class 2, they have full police powers while they're on duty. They do carry a firearm. Their police powers only work while they're on duty here in the city of Asbury Park. They come in, they sign in, they retrieve their weapon from a safe within headquarters. They go about their job. At the end of the day, they put the firearm away, they sign out, their police powers stop. Whereas a fully trained police officer or a fully sworn police officer They have full police powers 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Right. So does that answer your ETC?
Thank you.
Okay. The certificate that police officers receive is from the New Jersey Police Training Commission in a level 1, a level 2, or a regular police officer.
Great. We have one question in the back, then we'll come up here.
First, I want to thank Dwayne and Jen and Nicole and Danny. And if a committee is being put together, I hope the people that got us here or make sure, because they're usually the ones left off. But a question, I've been lucky enough to go to a ComStat meeting. Is there any engagement for the community to understand what your practices are and what your issues are in relations to policing Asbury Park? And number two, Dwayne made a great case that this special unit that you have don't have cameras on. Why is that? And my third is, can the council actually mandate in an ordinance that we be able to see these cameras when or at least within a reasonable time when an incident goes on for us to review? As we saw in Chicago, that incident, which a videotape was not released for almost a year when a person was killed. We expect that hopefully transparency will allow us to be able to see what our own police officers are doing in our community.
So as far as the cameras, our policy right now says all uniformed personnel from sergeant and below.
Could you please stand up, sir? We can't hear you back there.
So our current policy reads that all uniformed personnel have body-worn cameras from sergeants and below, and patrolmen. There may be revisions in the future that require the street crimes unit to, but at this time, our street crimes unit is not required to wear body-worn cameras. Right?
Well, I hope that could be reviewed,
Right.
that policy that now needs to be looked at,
Right.
since it's being brought up.
As far as,
Some of that based on budgeting too?
it is. We do, we receive a lot of things that we have at the police department through grant funding, so it could be budgetary as well. As far as the other question, is there a form in place that allows the community to see some of the challenges that the police department encounters? Is that what?
Yeah, I mean, well, I was invited to a ComStat meeting.
Right.
And
At the present time, no, there isn't. However, it is absolutely a good idea, and I think that's something maybe we can try to get off the ground in the near future. All right. Is there anything else?
so the other is for the council to look at getting that camera and at least the visibility for us to see that camera and incidents that are under review.
So a lot of times, and I'm sure it's the case in Chicago as well, whenever there's an investigation going on, they can't release the camera.
Well, no, as we came to find out, that incident, over a year, there was a fight internally in the police department.
Okay.
To release that camera of a murder.
All right.
So right now, many law enforcement agencies around this country have released their tapes on situations, even as 24 to 48 hours after a situation.
Yeah, I'll just say this. One of the things that we have done working with our community law enforcement unit is if there is a way to release the video first to the clergy and to the family, we do that now in our area, and I'll say in Monmouth County. We had an incident which we won't discuss because it's still under investigation, but we were able to, say, hey, can the family look at this and view it? It was only the second time in the history of our of Monmouth County that we did that. So we are moving towards an ability, and that's one of the things I'm positioned with the prosecutor we're trying to work on is when we're able to release the video as soon as possible, we are working to release it to the first the family and those involved as we can, pending that an investigation is not going on, an IA investigation is not going on. And so that's coming down. That we have been doing that, and we started just recently. We were doing that for the first time for a long time. And so that process is unfolding, but there are situations that cannot be released to the public, which may seem very difficult for us to understand. But if something's under investigation, I'm very new. I'm only a year into the job, but I'm learning that there are some times where they cannot release to the public, and I'm now getting an understanding of that myself. But as it permits, those things are occurring, and that's why sometimes it does take a year once the investigation is complete. And so, just wanted to kind of add to that.
We would like to have nothing but complete transparency at the prosecutor's office. But as the pastor just said, each case has its own DNA, its own fingerprint, and it all depends on where the case is, or how it's moving forward, whether we can release information at a time so that it doesn't interfere with the investigation, or hinder the investigation, or jeopardize the investigation. So from now on, moving forward, we believe that any cases that we can release on so that the public can be more at ease, it will be done. And then when it can't, we hope the public understands that there are certain reasons why it can't be done.
Reverend Harris?
Sorry, just to piggyback off of what the discussion is happening right now, I wanted to know, is there a time limit for investigations? Because if the investigation is going on for a year or beyond that, and we're not seeing the official footage from the police department, we live in a day and age where that footage can go out from someone's phone within minutes, but it's taking the police department a year. And so that does not help to build trust with the community, because they're building their own story and, based off of what they saw on Facebook rather than what they've gotten from you, which would be more, I would guess, more official. But so anyway, is there a time limit? Because you go a year, 2 years into it, that's time where the community is now building distrust with you because they don't understand why it's taking so long. So is there a time limit on that, or?
It should be a time limit. You know why? Because if you are indicted, that means that you get all of the evidence that's against you as a defendant. And the prosecutor also has the evidence. And you're indicted within, 45 days? So just like, for instance, with the shooting on the camera with the little baby right there. The family got to see the video, but the community never got to see it. It's been like 3 years now. And it's my experience from me watching news and studying all that across this country, police let out videos when it is favorable to them. But when it's not favorable to them, it won't come out. For instance, like what Tracy had mentioned in the McClellan McDonald case, it was a lot of internal bickering, and also the mayor came up, had something to do with withholding it. But when it came out, that's when this guy was finally charged. And in the instance with the body cameras, I've been meeting with the mayor and them for a long time with this thing, with the street crime unit, with this body camera. At first I was told that they was gonna get body cameras because the first one's caught on fire. Then I was told that they didn't come in yet. Then we was told that they work with outside agencies, so they be doing investigations, so that's why they don't wear body cameras. Then we were told that it was up to the prosecutor in the office. Then we were told that they couldn't pass no ordinance to put body cameras on. So I said to the mayor, I said, y'all the ones who had to sign off on putting body cameras on your offices in the first place. So if y'all put a policy in place that we want everybody to have body cameras who are interacting with the public enforcing the law, then that should be the law. It shouldn't be left up to law enforcement to determine who has the body camera.
Each individual department, as you stated, they have to determine whether they want the body cam. The prosecutor, we can't supersede them and say that you have to have them. There are a number, the majority of police departments in Monmouth County do have body cameras. Their officers have, but there are some that choose not to. And I can't answer for why some choose not to. And that would be a question better answered by Asbury, by the street crime unit. It could be for a number of reasons that I could speculate, but I'm not here to share my speculation with you. So,
I just want to let y'all know, Doug, they threw y'all under the bus on that. They said in the meeting that it was y'all.
All right, let me, yes.
My name is Gil Butler. I'm the chairperson of Monmouth County Mental Health Board. And my question is for Mayor Moore. Mayor, we were in a meeting in Mount Pisgah Baptist Church last year. And I'm wondering, in the west side of Asbury Park, with all of the housing that's going up, does the city have any plans to develop a shopping mall for the people in the west side of the community? That's my first question. And the second question is, on the west side, what is the percentage of people who live at or below the poverty level?
The second question, I cannot answer right now. I can get back to you with a percentage. I'd say the percentage is fairly high. We all know that. The first question, I would say, the city, no, because the city basically owns no land in the city whatsoever, either on the east side, the west side, anywhere. We own no property. So as far as the city building a shopping market, no, but there's been quite a few parcels been put together by developers that were hoping there's going to be more affordable housing and a shopping or grocery store or something like you're saying.
And you have, it's my understanding from the meeting in Mount Pisgah that you now have 2 social workers, is that correct? Do you have 2 social workers in the city?
We have Doug, who's the head, we have another girl, and we have a nurse, part-time nurse in that department, social services.
Does the social workers that you have actually at City Hall go out to the community and talk to people maybe even before the police might go if there's a domestic dispute, or to go with the police if there's a domestic dispute, so that there's an arbitrator that can help the police when there's problems like that in the community?
I'm not going to say with domestic disputes, but the social services department is very active as far as going out, meeting with the homeless, go to the train station, going to the beachfront, and seeing people sleeping in the lockers and trying to get as many people placed as soon as possible. With Code Blue, it brings a lot of people to us, but again, there's still people who are reluctant to go into services even if we can provide them.
Thank you. True, yes.
Yes, is there a reason why the street crime units did not get their cameras before everybody else?
Yes, Sergeant Casey mentioned that before.
Besides facts, it's not in our policy at this time with the street crimes unit. There's no particular reason they wanted to have all uniformed officers outfitted with the cameras first. Like I said, there may be revisions in the policy in the near future to have those officers armed with, outfitted with body cameras.
Thanks. Danny Harris.
Dan Harris, Dan Black, AKA Nicole's father. That's what I'm known as. Okay, I got 5 questions, and they're all quick answers. First, Officer, do you consider 8 to 2 weeks enough time to train anybody to walk up and down the beach, or to be a special?
Well, that's Mr. Harris. That's not up to me. It's a police training commission certification that they receive. That's throughout the entire state. So, to answer your question, personally, to do what they need to do as far as summons and ordinance issuing, they could cover that part of it, but they could stand to use a little bit more.
That's all I need to do. Okay, I ain't going on.
Yeah, I mean, 8 days is a short time, but like I said, we use Monmouth Academy, and that's the amount of time that they require is necessary to get that Class 1 certification.
It does seem like enough time. Okay, I'm not going any further. Okay, police who work on the west side. Okay, in the southwest quadrant.
I didn't catch the
police who work in the southwest quadrant.
Right.
mentored by older police officers before they drop into this area. Because what I see living over here, I see 2 kids walking down the street who look like they aren't even shaving yet. And it looks like, honest to God, that they're more afraid of us than we are them. So are they mentored by older police officers or trained by older police officers? I have a buddy system where one might ride with them or walk with them, not to see 2 22-year-olds walking down the street, but a trained officer. So when a younger officer is faced with the situation, that he can say, this is how we handle this.
We do have a field training program in place. It's roughly 3 months, and then the officer's cut off, and put out on his own.
I think it would be advantageous to keep a lot of your more seasoned officers, especially those like you. Okay, I ain't gonna lie, and I ain't lying. You're pretty good with it, with the young people. Alright, you know, who would be walking with a younger officer, so like you don't have aggressive tactics used by a young officer. And a lot of times those aggressive tactics are because he's scared.
Right.
You know, so I mean, I think that might work. I'm not telling you how to do your job, but I'm just saying, okay? How much of a radius in the hiring process do you go when you say, okay, I know Asbury offers residents, then after you offer residents, then you have to go into a certain radius to hire other people? How far?
Monmouth County,
Yeah,
the
just
entire
Monmouth
Monmouth County, yes.
Okay, that means we can go down to Manalapan.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Alright, that's cool. Yeah, see, because the demographics in Manalapan are different than the demographics in Asbury.
Yes, they are. However, Mr. Harris, these aren't Asbury Park rules. These are civil service rules, okay? Like the young lady mentioned before about how we go about hiring, what mandates, or not mandates, but what says somebody's a resident in Asbury Park. We follow civil service rules, and it's not just police department, it's fire department, it's city yard. They set the rules or the standards, and we follow them. So civil service says you'll hire all your residents first, and then when you exhaust that list for whatever reason it may be, then you go on to a county list, excuse me.
Okay.
And yes, there can be a time when we hire somebody from Manalapan.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And it's like I'm from Manalapan, and that's a very white community, and then I go to Asbury, which is a very mixed community with a high poverty rate, and I don't even know nobody. You know, that's what I'm saying. Okay, 4th question. How do our new hires rate in test scores when we rate against new hires in other towns? In the civil services.
How do we rate?
Yeah, how do they rate? Yeah, you take a test.
Right.
I got 100, he got 80, he got 60. I want to know, are we hiring the hundreds or are we hiring the 60s?
No, we're hiring. So this is what happens, okay? Say 30,000 people throughout the state take the same test, right? John Smith from Manalapan scores 100, right? But he lives in Manalapan. Joe Smith scores a 75, but he lives in Asbury Park. 75 gets preference over the 100. So we're hiring.
You know, because
we're hiring the highest score within Asbury Park and then down.
All right.
All right, you got one more question.
I know. Now this is for John Moore. All right, John. Being that we are making progress with the building, with the Renaissance and with the Housing Authority along Springwood Avenue, have we talked to New Jersey Transit about putting bus stops back on Springwood Avenue so that our people do not have to walk to Neptune or the Main Street, okay? Because if you talk about the safety of the community, it's much better if I walk a quarter of a mile and catch a bus to go to the mall than I have to walk a half a mile or even a mile to catch a bus.
Yes, we've had those conversations with New Jersey Transit. They continue on. Sometimes Transit, DOT are tough people to work with. You see the Main Street project is blowing up in our face, but we've had those conversations for over a year now, and we're hoping to get a couple routes, one going to Brookdale, one going to the malls. So yes, we have had those
Springwood Avenue.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That's all I want to know.
So we want to respect people's time. So we want to get 2 more people in because we said 4 to 5:30. So we want to. You got a question?
I do.
All right, come on.
So all the statistics that Nicole presented about how the rate of violence from the police is higher in Asbury than the average of the state, I'm curious, has the police department looked at those statistics, do they know who the people are in the police department who caused those statistics to be that high? And have they been sort of focused on as maybe the first group of people who really need some new serious training happening with all these lovely training things that have been talked about?
So, this report that came out, this was the Asbury Park Press, I believe, right? And
NJ.com.
NJ.com. Okay. So they mentioned about how officers use force. All right. Now this can be any force. Okay. So let's just say that somebody resisted arrest. Okay. And the officer had to use force on that person. So that goes down as use of force for it. Somebody was not compliant although they were taken into custody, they didn't want to go into the police vehicle. We had to use force to get them to go into the vehicle. Somebody ran from us prior to arresting them. That's use of force by flight, right? So there's reports done. So as far as the amount of officers in Asbury Park, was that your question?
Well, yeah, there must be some group of officers who cause this statistic to be so high. Or it's not general everyone, right?
Well,
Everybody's saying there are some
As I mentioned
officers
earlier, that's why the early warning system is being implemented. So that when you have someone who has 3 use of force within a 6-month period, then they are red flagged. And then we're looking into, are they fit for duty?
Okay.
So that's being implemented.
That's a new program that you're doing?
Yes.
Okay.
In addition to that, just to clarify that a little further, the use of abuse report is, unfortunately, the skewed nature of it just is the fact that it's taking Asbury Park and is culminating it next to Oceanport.
Yeah.
And any other town. So when you look at numerical numbers, Oceanport has 8 police officers, and their abuse of force may be, let's say, 4 for a whole year. Is taking that report in addition to in Asbury, a Long Branch, and then going to another small town, and is taking all those small towns that may have small policing elements to them. For example, right next to Asbury, Allenhurst, and it's taking all those who has 2 police officers, and it's comprising a report that we can look at the data and say it looks skewed for Asbury Park, but you're doing numbers next to police departments that have nothing going on, and then you're saying Asbury disparity has got all these things going on, but it's culminating that information next to police. So because that's what the report is doing. It's looking at it. And the only reason why I have a foreknowledge of it, because I spoke in Red Bank relative to this, and their council and their group and are speaking on it. So I got schooled on it a little bit as well. And so I'm just kind of bringing this to our attention. That not to say it's not a good report, but just saying that the data is not kind of matched equally across Monmouth County based off the townships.
Also Newark and Camden. It's not Monmouth County. It's New Jersey. So it's Newark, Camden. So it does actually even out.
It's a rating per 1,000 arrests.
That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
Even if it takes a police force of 8 police officers longer to make those 1,000 arrests, the disparity between those rates should not be as high. And I have a question for Mayor John Moore, if I can do it.
Yeah. Sure.
Mayor John Moore, were you and the city council aware of the Force report when it was released?
Yes.
And, were you aware where Asbury Park ranked in the top quarter percentile of use of force in that report? And so when you and the city council were made aware, what steps did you take to address those numbers?
I'm not gonna say the entire council, I was aware, so
Sure.
I just want to clarify that. I think the entire council, I was aware, I had a discussion with the city manager how we could resolve this and where it's not so bad in the future.
Would you be able to share some of the contents of that discussion?
No, because it's a personnel issue.
Sure.
What?
And one last question. Mayor, are you aware of broken windows policing as a philosophy and how that plays into with the municipal code, which the city council does have good control
I'm not going to answer because I think so, but I'm not sure, so I'm not going to
Sure.
say.
Love to have a conversation with you.
Okay, thank you. And your name?
Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.
All right. Anybody who has not asked the question, I see your hand, but I just want. All right, sure.
Hi. I just want to ask, I think my question is more of a long-term thing. Are there programs in place for the youth to build relationships with the police officers? This young lady mentioned the Explorer program. I remember that program vividly. I had family members in that program. These are middle school and high school students who were treated as if they were, taken under the wings of different police officers. We lost that. I'm born and raised here in Asbury Park. When I was out here running with everybody else, the police officers, we knew them. We had relationships. We were able to discuss certain things if we got into arguments or whatever, and they would take us home to our parents before they actually used excessive force or anything to take us down to the station. So building that relationship at younger ages will build more trust with the police officers, and as they get older, then that will gain interest in being police officers. Kids don't want to be police officers anymore. It's because of the lack of trust and the things that they see their parents go through that, discourages them. Nobody wants to be a firefighter, a police officer, or anybody who, because of the fear. So I believe that if you start with the youth and start building that trust again, long-term we'll have more, opportunities for people within the community to take on these jobs that are offered, and we won't have to go looking out. So are there programs in place or in the talks about bringing back those types of programs for our youth?
Well, as young lady earlier asked, yes, we do. I mean, we do have the cadet program. They've recently started in the high school a law enforcement class, which we are partnering with them to try and encourage high school students to follow the career path of law enforcement. It doesn't have to be police; it could be corrections or park systems or something like that. So that is.
By the time they get to high school, they've already decided that they don't. I'm talking elementary school, middle school, growing.
We have through the school resource officers.
We have resource officers
that implement programs such as DARE and LEAD, Law Enforcement Against Drugs. So could we do more? Yes, we could do more. But those are some of the programs we have in place.
Michael?
That's that. Yes. I grew up in Asbury on the east side, and it's the same as on the east side as it is on the west side. And I've been on the opposite side of the spectrum as far as like being harassed. I know a couple officers that know me from that side, and we went through the same things that the west side went through. But the thing about it nowadays compared to then, like Officer Barnes, it's a couple officers that I know personally. Like they actually did walk through the community, shake our hands, speak to us. Mm-hmm. It wasn't always what you got in your pocket. No matter if they thought they seen you doing something, it still was a point in time where they'll just stop, speak to you, see with your parents, speak to your parents, and do that. But there's none of that going on nowadays at all. Like cops don't even. When I see a cop now, they just look at me and keep it moving. Like they don't even say hi. Like what happened to the hi? Like there's no hi, there's no bye, there's no type of relationship.
Last question, because he's been raising his hand.
Yeah.
Asbury rapper and artist. Yeah, I just want to say, because it'd be like two sides to every story. You know what I'm saying? But I know a lot of the officers. You know what I'm saying? we form with them in the community. We be doing things, they be out there, you know what I'm saying? Like, nah, I ain't like that, but the last couple of years, they make a lot of arrests, but they do go through a lot of stuff, you know what I'm saying? People having guns on them, certain stuff, you know what I'm saying? They gotta move, you know what I'm saying? They go through stuff. Somebody don't just want trying to get locked up. They run everything, you know what I'm saying? So they go through a lot of stuff. Yeah, they're a good police department though. You know what I'm saying? They're doing a lot to keep our community safe. You know, they do a lot.
Thank you. Thanks. Yes, and then we'll come on.
Hi, I'm Madeline Monaco. I've lived in Asbury for about 2 years now, but I grew up in New York City. My father was a police officer for 30 years in New York City and stuff, and we lived in a multiracial, multicultural neighborhood, and I've seen firsthand the good, the bad, and the ugly. And a lot of the comments that you guys are making about the police being part of the community, you know, engaging with the younger people, that can work. So what I'd like to know is, what are the immediate next steps? What's the timing for that, and how can we in the community help?
Can I answer part of
Yeah,
that?
absolutely.
Okay. Sorry. So some of the next steps that we've been discussing within the committee is actually going out to have conversations, starting with conversations with persons who have had these encounters with the police. So it's not enough for them to inbox Reverend Nicole and say, the police tried to pick me up today, they cursed me out, and then they told me to go away. It's not enough for them to just have that conversation with me, but we need to bring them to the table so that they can start to have an honest conversation with Officer John. I'm not quite sure, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I'm being rude. Chief, there you go. Because, okay, I'm hearing it, but is he hearing it? And then what can happen so that, okay, so I've seen some of these videos, right? And I have seen the videos on Facebook of these encounters, right? And an officer will say, well, they were being aggressive, they were being unruly. And I'm looking at the video going, they're being kids, right? Because there's a cultural difference, and what you see is a bunch of kids or a bunch of young people being unruly is me knowing my culture and knowing if I go over there, I can say, yo, chill out. And they're gonna chill out. So we need to start having those conversations with police and community. So we're looking at a plan called Better Policing, Better Communities, where we would look at the key elements for our community, because every plan doesn't work for every town, right? So what are these guys who say they're having these encounters with police, what are they being pulled over for? Are these petty things? Are these officers that just want to get off the street and go and do some paperwork for a couple of hours, so they pulled somebody over for a bike light? So, like, these are the kind of things that we need to discover and have conversations about, and then those conversations need to lead to the people that can make the changes. So the next steps would be us having conversations, because trust, we called a lot of young people that had encounters with the police and said, do you want to come to this press conference? Did we not?
And they said,
and all these kids was like, nah, I'm all right.
They
Because they were scared.
They're scared.
And so we were like, okay, we'll speak up for y'all. Y'all don't have to do, but we have to go back to them now and say, okay, now we've had this press conference. Will you be comfortable with coming to the table and talking to us first, and then us taking you to the table to talk with them? So those are the kind of, does that answer the question? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else that we in the community can do. I know you're forming an advisory council,
and
but
we
is there
shall be
anything
calling
on
Yeah,
the community?
we will. That's why we took the sign-in sheet with everyone's email address and contact information, because once we have those conversations, we will be having community forums where we're going to need community to come in, because all of us are going to have to be a part of this. So yes, we will be reaching out. The work is just starting.
Thank you.
I was just asking Officer Casey, because, by the way, he's one of the best officers Asbury got. He is. I was just asking him about POW, and he said that they don't have that. I think that's something that we can do. Police Athletic League, I think that's something that we as the community help push this and get these officers involved with the community more. And it could bring about a change, because the more you get to know a person, the more you get to understand them, and the more you get to deal with them in a better way. Because as people, I want you to treat me the same way I treat you.
Right.
I'm gonna treat you good, I want you to treat me good back.
Right.
And that's all it is. We understand that we reap what we sow. As I said before, we don't grow up together, we gonna what? Go down together.
That's right. Right.
So, we're gonna cut it. So, right, as was mentioned earlier, this is the first, right? This is not the last or the only conversation. And we do want to make sure, ask that everyone has their email and name so that you all will be informed about the next time we gather together. We do want to thank the committee that planned it, for everybody who came out to be a part of this.
No, I just wanted to make sure, so the next event we're not waiting another month, we're not waiting another 2 months to come together. We want to do this right away because there's so much work to be done. So please make sure that you see Deacon Scott, okay, if you're not giving her your email, your number or something like that, so that we can contact you. And if it's okay with the pastor, because we got to get out of here because they got Boy Scouts.
All right.
So we got to go.